The 16th of July 2023, and after 2 hard days of rain, we have a bit of dry weather here in rural Ireland, and the temperature are low enough but not too bad. Now, I'm going to deal with an article that's come to my notice, and with facts from the company accounts of a wind energy company. And we see that in the RTE debacle, what is at stake there is somebody began to look at the accounts and give it a scrutiny. Now, I can't understand why that happened. There was a whistleblower, it appears, but the point is, with the renewable energy, anyone who looks at the accounts will find the very same Ponzi scheme scam is there. Now, just to rehash, a lot of people don't understand. The point I make is that, which affects us all in our bills and loss of jobs in industry and everything else. The wind companies get a guaranteed price for their product, and solar gets the same. They get a guaranteed price. That guaranteed price is linked to the highest fossil fuel in the system, and that's the first lie that has been told by the media. That's the first thing about it. So they get the highest fossil fuel price, so that as the fossil fuel goes up and down, so does the profit they make on wind. And if the fossil fuel price goes below the guaranteed price of about 76 euros per megawatt hour, they get the guaranteed price. The wind farms do. Now, that's all right. So what is happening? What did I see when I went to look at their financial accounts, and I looked it up to 40, and I got this scenario, which I want to bring it to your attention, and then tell you why I call this 600 million of a loss. There's 600 million euros of a loss in Mainstream Renewable Power that can never be got back. And this is shows that I was right on this, and that this scam is going on and it's not being noticed, but it affects us all. So what I want to show you is what I find generally in the accounts would be this. So a wind farm might cost 30 million to build. That's what the small rah one cost here. A 20 turbine wind farm might cost 60, but this is the general trend. 30 million euros to build. The next thing is, it has a life of 20 years. Some of them have planning permission for 25 years, but generally speaking, even at that, it still doesn't matter. Even they give them a lifespan in financial terms of 25 years, it doesn't make any difference. But this is a general rule, a 20-year lifespan. So in other words, they accept that after 20 years they have to be pulled down. And that differs big time from a hotel, which still has the premises, from the property, from a pub, from what do you call it, a hardware store, which still has some residual value if it stops trading. Now, so you can see then that if it's a 30 million cost, it needs 1.5 million over 20 years to pay back the capital sum. 1.5 million. That's before you pay interest, right? Now, it usually has nothing. It usually has nothing to pay this, or it may have enough to pay the interest. And therefore, the loss over the lifetime of the wind farm is 30 million. In other words, everything spent going into it is wasted. It's gone. It's gone. It'd be like if I went out on my farm and bought some big ornament, like a big ornament or a statue or something like that, and nobody wanted it. It's a waste of time, really. And sometimes I do see things, or I buy something. I remember one time buying a clutch for a car, and the car broke down. Otherwise, it was an old one, and I thought I'd get another one out of it. But when it broke down, it wasn't worth repairing. The clutch I bought was wasted, because I had no car to put into, and I changed to a different type. So you understand, you can have dead money. So all the money in Rah Wind Farm is dead. It can never be got back. So an example, how is this paid for then? Well, an example might be that its sales from electricity could be 2 million a year. They don't perform as good as they'd expect, a lot worse in fact, and their profit can go up a bit with the high price of fuel, but that was only a peak for a few months last year, and it's down a bit more. It's calmer now. So there won't be much difference this year, but there might be a little better than this. But anyway, they get 2 million a year in their turnover. And out of that comes the cost of sales. And the cost of sales is things like insurance, transport, repair, which can be a lot, payment for staff, and there's not many of them, but there's a little, and all of that stuff. And of course, there was a lie told about the staff. There's no staff employed in renewable energy at all. That was another lie, but that's for another day. Now, the cost of sales usually includes interest. In this case now, I'm putting in the interest. They take the interest away, and because of the interest payments, we can have a rough idea what the capital debt is. Now, if they can get, and this is what the Minister, Richard Bruton, was trying to do, get people to invest their gratuities and all that in wind energy, then they go over to shares. And if you have shares, you're entitled to nothing. You only get a profit or a dividend if they make money. And so that's how they try to get ordinary people to invest in wind farms. But funny enough, ordinary people are too clever and they can't get them. The result is they rely on borrowing. And they also get investors of big, rich, wealthy people. And that's the point. In the case of Rara, there was over 100 wealthy medical personnel from Dublin, mostly, investing sums in it. They put in that, and they nearly lost all, but they managed to save them. Now, just to understand, so in this particular case, there's cost of sales is 1.5, and that is 0.5 for interest. They have to pay interest on the loan. So 0.5 is interest, leaving nothing to pay off the capital sum. Leaving nothing to pay off the capital sum. So you can see if they're to pay back their capital costs, the cost is 30 million, the life is 20 years. They would need 1.5 to pay back the 30 million over 20 years, because 1.5 multiplied by 20 is 30, and they would need interest of 0.5 million euros, and that would mean that need a total profit of 2 million annually. Okay, they need a total profit of 2 million annually, and they never get that. So sometimes there's no profit at all. So there's neither interest nor profit paid. Sometimes there's no profit at all. There's neither interest nor profit paid. There could be a profit of 1 million. There could be a profit of 1 million. So 0.5 would have to be taken out of that for interest, and that would leave the other 0.5, which mean that they'd only be able to pay back 10 million of their initial cost, and there'd be 10 million lost. Okay, so this is what's happening. So I wondered how this could go on, and what I discovered is that in Ireland there's usually always a sugar daddy moves in, and what it is that there seems to be an unwritten agreement between government and utilities like electricity and national toll roads. I don't see Irish Water getting into it. I have no doubt if Irish Water had been allowed to become a company, it would be investing in wind farms right now. And that shows you the wisdom of blocking them, because that's what's going to happen. They were going to charge people for water. They were going to put the money into windmills, and hunky-dunky great job as far as government would be concerned. That was one of the things that we benefited from stopping Irish Water getting to be a company. But National Toll Roads are a company, and they're buying wind fields and bought wind farms all over the place, including to your worker here beside me. So they use your fee when you pull up at the toll booth plaza to pay that loss. They bought the wind farm when it was ready to go, and they carried the loss by their toll roads. The ESB, SSE Electricity's heavily invested, and many other companies. Now, usually private companies will not get involved, and a very good example of that was John Lang PLC, and he bought a wind farm, that company in Tipperary, and they realised this is what I'm after telling you. They were making no profit, and they said, this is no good. They put it on the market, and sure enough, Greencoat Renewables bought it. So Greencoat Renewables still seems to be getting high power investments in the UK and in Ireland. How they're able to go on with this, I'm not too sure. But what I can do is I can tell you what I do know for sure. So you see now how this scam is worked. They can't pay the capital cost, and by loading the cost on the toll roads, on your electricity bill, on your gas bill, they are driving up the price of electricity. And this is why when the minister talks about capping the price of electricity, he either doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's lying, because he must know that there's a hidden payment made to the wind farms every year. What happens is the utilities buys the wind farm, and the wind farm is operated as a subsidiary account. And when they pay out the 30 million, they should be getting back their interest and their and their principal every year from the wind farm, and they're getting back nothing, and it's written into all of the accounts by the auditors. This wind farm is viable and it's a going concern because it's guaranteed to be subsidised by the parent company. That's in the accounts of all of them. So now I hope that explains to you how this scam works and how it works. And BlackRock, a big finance house in America, came in when we thought Rara would fall and they wouldn't be able to sell it. It came in and bought it. So there seems to be always somebody there to buy it. But in this particular case, I want to tell you, Eddie O'Connor, he's the fellow that referred to me as having farting cows in the newspaper. I want to tell you this. Mainstream Renewable Power, the Dublin-based green energy group, taken control of by Norway's AKER, Aker Horizons, Norway. Now, when you get Norwegians investing in anything, that's oil. Norway is a massive exporter of oil and one of the better and richer run countries, and people doing very well getting the oil revenue. So they have surplus money and they have a conscience, and they're buying wind farms. So that is oil that's paying for this. So now what they have is Norway's Aker Horizons in 2021 saw its pre-tax loss widen to the equivalent of 630 million euros. 630 million euros. Now, last year, that was 2022, as it took a large impairment. That means they had to write off or say, we're never getting that back, charge. They call it an impairment charge. They use all this flowery language. Against assets in a challenging Chilean environment. Now, folks, what does that all mean? What does it all mean? So, the losses also contained a loss of 65 million, and another loss that was in 2020, and another loss in 2021, and it's accumulated now to 650 million euros, of which Eddie O'Connor is the Irish, still the Irish man there, and there's a lady called Mary Quincy, and I see her on planning applications and all of that, and I see her on planning applications, and this is who she is. There, she's there. See there. I hope you see her there. Now, Mary Quincy. Now, so what's happened is that Mainstream Renewable Power, the Dublin-based green energy group, taken control of by Norway's Aker Horizons, and only they were taking control of, Mainstream was gone burst. In 2021, saw its pre-tax loss widen to the equivalent of 65 million euros last year, that's 2022, as it took a large impairment charge against the assets in a challenging Chilean market. Doesn't your heart just bleed for them? Doesn't your heart just bleed for these people? The company's founder, Eddie O'Connor, and a group of high net worth individuals, I checked some of them, a lot of them are medical people who make a lot of money in South Dublin doing medical stuff and all that. Now, and this is why our health service is paying out a lot. It has to keep these guys going, and that they're able to charge this because they're good at their job. So anyway, the company's founder, Eddie O'Connor, and a high net worth individuals that backed him in starting the company in 2008, I remember, continue to own 16.5% stake in Mainstream, which the Norwegians plan to float on the stock market in the coming years. So they're going to try to float this. That'll be cracked to see who buys that. My advice is be very careful. Now, the Irish company, led by Chief Executive Mary Quiney, Quiney, booked 370 million of an impairment. So now, folks, the Irish part of this has a 370 million. Now, that's above its share of 16%, but we can't get into that because we don't have that information. But the Irish company booked a 370 million impairment loss on assets in the key market in Chile, where it won contracts in 2016 to develop 1.5 gigawatts of wind and solar projects at a cost of 1.4 billion euros. 1.4 billion euros. They wanted to horse these windmills and solar panels up on the native tribes' land. The native people are kicking back. The Chilean government thinks they're only dirt and tramps and slaves, get them the hell out of the way. And the Irish company is going hook, line and sinker into it. So again, your heart bleeds for these poor Irish people who are now losing 370 million. Hopefully some of those doctors and medical professions and other people with money will be eating out of the bin, and I'll give them nothing. I won't give them even a sandwich because they deserve this. Now, the Chilean platform, known as Andes Renewables Portfolio, benefit from power purchase agreements with the Latin American countries' government. So these are what governments do in order to respond to this green nonsense. They encourage these people coming, obviously with some type of a refit scheme or some type of a sweetener, probably giving them, maybe not actually giving them the facility that they get paid the cost of the highest fossil fuel. Maybe Chile is a wee bit more careful in that way, and therefore it's not just working out so well. But in any event, anyway, these things are going to make a loss, the same as everywhere else, and the big problem is who's going to buy them. We now have an Irish company with this. Who's going to buy a loss-making thing? They're hoping they will. And the Norwegian company, with the oil revenue they're making, will probably end up buying it, but they're going to lose as well. No, okay. Now, a challenging market, to call it. No, it's not a challenging market, Mainstream. You are stupid, right? Market conditions in the local Chilean power market impacted the group negatively with grid capacity limitations. So again, there's a grid capacity limitation. In Ireland, they get paid anyway when to sell their wind energy into the grid, even though the wind is blowing and the grid cannot take it, because I have said there's a limit on how much of it you can let into the grid. This is hidden in the media, in the fake media, but they're maybe finding in Chile that the Chileans just tell them, if we can't take it, you don't produce it, we won't pay you for it. That could be what had happened there. They're hardly going to hit it lucky to have a silly, stupid government everywhere they go. Maybe no Greens at all in Chile, I don't know. So anyway, a limited capacity, grid capacity, leading to increased costs. Yes, so the cost has gone up. It's not. It's decreased income. The cost wouldn't be affected by the capacity. So again, that's flowery language too. So Aker Horizons said, adding that the impairment losses were a result of difficulties experienced in the local Chilean power market, as well as rising interest rates. Well, he didn't say what the Chilean ones was, but we know damn well these are loss-making. They're trying to paint it over that these would be profitable were it not for challenges. The challenges are the stupidity of trying to power any economy with wind. And he also rates interest rates. And this is why the interest rates is an interesting thing. I'd say that's the truth. You see, I have the interest down here at 0.5. Those interest rates will go up. So any little left over to pay for the capital cost will be gone. And I don't think you're going to see interest rates coming down. The report also disclosed that one of the three Andes Renewables portfolios, that's the company over there, is the portfolio name they have on it, known as the Condor portfolio, has entered into certain technical events of default, DEFIULT, in relation to operational matters in its loan facilities. So it's run into a default. It's not able to pay. It's a default. Well, that's not a lovely way of putting it. Certain technical events of default. They're not able to pay, right? It's like a man bought a farm in my area here and paid big money for it and put everybody else out of it, and all the lads were disappointed, didn't get it. They were given good prices for land adjoining them. But when this fella came to stump up the money, he had to tell the auctioneer, I can't pay, I won't take it. So this is known now. He wouldn't say, I can't get the money. He'd say, I have certain technical events of default. I have certain technical events of default. In relation to operational matters in its loan facilities, which, it said, was customary for project finance facilities of this nature. Well, why is default customary? See again, trying to gloss it up that he's made an idiot of himself. Now, while individual Condor projects are fully operational, they have not yet ticked the technical boxes to be defined as achieving a defined portfolio completion date. So they're not able to say when they have all this stuff ready for building, and how will they build it if they don't have the money. Again, plenty of flowery language. Mainstream is in active dialogue with the banks relating to obtaining the necessary waivers So the necessary waivers means that they want the bank not to insist on being paid. And who has the money in the bank? Who is the money? Is it over in Chile? Are there investors over there? Are there people with deposits? Well, I'm sorry to tell you, people with deposits, you are not getting your money back. And a lot of American banks are in big trouble. 3 are already gone, loaning to these ridiculous schemes that can never pay their money back. And also, people with money in Chile could really invest in US bonds. You'll get nearly 5% for them there. So the interest rate has gone up. That has left more for people with money to invest in and not give it to silly windmills that can't give them anything. But how they're not able to see this, I don't know. I'm not able to figure out how people can be so stupid after 10 or 15 years of this that they still can't see. Nobody ever makes money on wind farms. They're a Ponzi scheme. So anyway, they're in dialogue with the bank to obtain the necessary waivers, which means waivers, W-I-V-E-R-S, which means the banks will not get their money. So what's dialogue going to be there? And they can't get anything out of the wind farms because they're worthless. And approval is required to resolve the defaults. In other words, give them more money. The report said, this dialogue is taking place at a time when there are significant challenges in the Chilean energy market at present, as exemplified by 2 other companies having notified Chile's national electricity operator that they can no longer fulfill their PPA contracts. There's 2 other companies not connected with Mainstream or this Swedish company, which have also told the government, we can't supply the power. They just can't go on because the costs are higher than anything they get for it. So that's another bit of very useful information. The two companies the report is referring to are understood to be Maria Eleanor Solar and Iberica, it's a different language, Caba Leones. There's 2 other companies, okay, so they're named there. Mainstream is actively pursuing further mitigation. They're looking to pay less in relation to these. Now it would appear now from me reading it that Mainstream also owns those 2 companies. So Mainstream is looking for something out from the banks for those companies. Mainstream must have some say or must own them. So maybe I misled you a little bit there. It would appear Mainstream has more irons in the fire in Chile than even what I'm reading here, including addressing the market inefficiencies with the regulator and government through industry associations and consulting with financial advisors on long-term capital structure and strategic financial options, the report said. See, they're trying to deny that the problem is that you can never pay back the price of a wind farm. You can never pay it back. And they want the government to impose their prices on the industry in Chile. We have Tara mines gone here partly as a result of it in Ireland. They want the people of Chile, who are only getting electricity in some areas, to pay for Eddie O'Connor's big scheme. So will they fall for that? I don't think they will. But sure, look, this thing is silly enough. It may only collapse when the whole banking thing collapses. A spokesman for Mainstream declined to comment beyond comments in the report. The contents of the report. Mainstream, in which Aker Horizons owns 58.4% stake, with Japan's Mitsui holding 25% stake, merged with Aker Horizons, previously Aker Offshore unit last August, is in a deal where the Irish company contributed 90% of the global portfolio development assets. So you see now here, folks, that you might get confused, but apparently the Irish company put up 90% of the cash, even though these other companies are into it. The Irish company put up 90% of the cash, if this is true. Now, I'm a bit confused by this because we're going by, I haven't got enough investigation yet. Mainstream had a project portfolio of more than 21 gigawatts across Europe and the Americas and Africa and Asia Pacific. And we know in South Africa, it's black out there. They're going to get nothing more there. I'd say they have twigged to them fairly quick. They're joining BRICS anyway. They'll dump the whole debt and all and leave the dollar and the dollar banks and the Western banks with nothing if the BRICS goes on. With 1.5 gigawatts in operation and under construction by the end of 2022. According to a report, for context, Irish peak electricity demand is 5.5. It used to be only 5. It's up 5 because of the data centres. Aker Horizons deal to take control of Mainstream in 2021 involved a Norwegian company at a time acquiring 75% of Mainstream's 900 for Mainstream for 900 million. They paid Mainstream 900 million, with a further 100 million payable this year, subject to certain performance targets being met. It represents 555% return on the original shareholders in Mainstream. So it means that they got so much money of this Aker, you might as well be hung for a sheep and a lamb, that the shareholders in Mainstream got 550 for every euro they invested. And now, having paid that, they realise they're getting nothing. That's the people that bought it. This is how stupid these people are. So now, that was some profit. So, I mean, maybe Eddie was right. Get in and take part in the scam and get what you can. It's a government-backed scam. Mainstream. Now, I might be cut off now. If I am, you'll just have to deal with it. Including almost 600 Irish high net worth individuals. 600 Irish network individuals got some of this money. The maximum value of the sale was worth 550 million to Mr. O'Connor alone. 550 million to Mr. O'Connor alone from peddling what is ultimately one of the biggest scams ever seen. Misuse 575 million investment in Mainstream early last year diluted the holdings of other investments. So they came along and they gave Mitsui, a Japanese company, I'd say, they gave them an investment of 575 million, and they got this share as a dilution of the existing share. So people who had shares worth a certain amount found that they were diluted because they had to share those shares with this new crowd, and that's a quirk of the shareholding scene. Okay, now I'll just finish up. There is another article about this where the natives in Chile attacked with guns, bombs, knives, burnt bulldozers, and attacked the sites, and have attacked it twice, and they don't seem to be able to get it going. The natives don't want this. This has been forced on them. I might do another wee article on that. Now, as you can see now, folks, the extent of this Ponzi scheme, how they always manage to get someone to come in and buy it, always so far. And because there's a Nile glut in Norway, they're making great money, and because the price of fuel has gone up, they're making money. So you can see how this is being propagated by Irish voters, voting for the Greens, and Irish taxpayers, and how ultimately they're not able to pay back the cost of the wind farms they're building, and can never pay them back. Some of them will take 400 years. There won't even be a track of them there to pay back the debt. And banks are lending this, and people are putting money into banks thinking they're going to make money doing this, and they're not. 3 banks have already failed, and I predict that when the crash comes, this is going to be a feature of it. A feature. Remember, it's in the audited accounts of about 40 Irish wind farms that I looked at, that they'd all be gone wallop, they'd all have collapsed, but for the parent company bailing them out and buying the wind farm and saying, all right, you can keep it, we don't want any money from it. It's a bit like a parent where a child owes him 100 euros and he says, I'll let you away with it. That's the same thing. It appears to be legal. Now, I hope I've made that quite clear, and that lets people viewing know exactly what is happening. That's the facts of the matter. 630 million, where people made up to 550 million euros, and that's gone. 630 is now gone, that I don't believe they'll ever get back, and they're gone off over to. Now, I'm not suggesting that Eddie O'Connor pocketed all the money he got. A lot of that money would be already owed. It would be owed to banks and all of that, so they have to be clear about that. Okay, they're gone off over to Brazilian banks, begging them to help them out, and I would say to Brazil, be very, very careful, have nothing to do with them. Bye. We'll see you back for something else. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. See you. Thank you.